While the other college football games will be great and exciting, I think that this game right here has the most intrigue out of the four college football games happening this New Year's cycle. You have a team in the Georgia Bulldogs playing without their first round quarterback in Carson Beck, playing with a backup Gunnar Stockton, and they have a really, really good defense. Playing against a team in Notre Dame that quote unquote can't win the big game and hasn't won the big game in a while. In today's video, I break down this game, preview it, and predict this exciting matchup between the Georgia Bulldogs and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish here in the Sugar Bowl. Before we get started, however, we have a ton of content coming out all winter long. This is the fourth college football. I've done a preview for every single college football game, college football playoff game, excuse me. And if you want to go see those afterward, I would very much encourage you to do so. We've done the Rose Bowl, the Peach Bowl, and the Fiesta Bowl. So if you want to stay locked in with my channel here, there's content coming out all winter long. We do previews, we do instant reactions after every single game, transfer portal stuff, recruiting stuff, you name it. We will be doing it on this channel. So please subscribe, as it is the best and most efficient way to support the channel. Liking the video would help out a ton, as it gets this video into the algorithm for more college football fans to watch it and listen. Lastly, comment for me right now what your score prediction is under the pinned comment down below. With all that being said, let's dive right into the preview of this game. All right, so let's look at the matchup here, just some general stats so that we understand where these two teams are coming from. Let's look at Georgia first. The number 21 total defense, they average giving up about 20.4 points per game and about 260 total yards per game. When you see yards per game, that's just total, by the way, combined rushing and passing. On the offensive side, they rank 29th out of all 100 and whatever, how many teams we have now. They average about 33.2 points per game and average just under 415 yards per game as well. So they're on the winning side of these, but they're not elite at either side of the ball, which does concern me. They're now led by Gunnar Stockton at quarterback, who has passed for 206 yards on the season. He's coming in relief a couple times, and he came in relief in the SEC championship game to lead Georgia. However he did it, I don't know. He did, but whatever. To that SEC championship title. Rushing, they have Nate Frazier and Trevor Etienne, who are both really good at running back. They're a duo that is pretty underrated in my opinion. Now, when you talk about running back duos, you typically talk about the Ohio State duo with Judkins and Henderson, or the Penn State duo with Katrin Allen and Nick Singleton, or you talk about the Oregon duo with Jordan James and Noah Whittingham. But this Georgia running back duo is pretty darn good as well, and that's what's carried them. Arian Smith is their top receiver with 750 yards. Dominic Lovett is second on the team with 571 yards. So this team just, pretty average on the scale, and a very much a plus rushing attack, especially with Gunnar Stockton at the helm. On defense, they give up 20 points per game. We already went through that. They're a top 25 defense. Malachi Starks leads the team in tackles with 73 sacks. You have the linebacker Jalen Walker with 6.5, and you have the other linebacker Chaz Chambliss with 6.5 as well. When it comes to interceptions, their defensive back, Dalen Everett, is number 1 on the team with 3. And this defense, in my opinion, a really good defensive line. We'll get to positional stuff later. But overall, it's good. It's really good, but it's not elite. Now we look at the right-hand side and look at Notre Dame. They have really impressive stats, I'm not going to lie. 2 top 5 units here. The number 4 offense in the country, averaging just under 39 points per game and just under 420 yards per game. On the defensive side, they are a top 3 unit at number 3, giving up just under 14 points per game. So they're giving up less than 2 touchdowns a game on average, just less than, and just under 300 total yards per game. On the offensive side, They're led by Riley Leonard, the quarterback who has taken a lot of criticism for losing to NIU, and he still takes criticism for losing to NIU. I don't know why at this point. It was just when it was the time, but that was week 2, and now we are in the college football playoff, and he's already won a college football playoff game. His QBR is top 20 with a 78.1. His touchdown interception ratio could be a lot better, but he's not known for being a gunslinger. He's definitely a dual threat type of guy. It's 17 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, and he has 2,293 yards through the air. But on the ground, though, however, he has 750 yards and 15 touchdowns. So you combine his 17 touchdowns with his 15, that's over 30 total touchdowns for Riley Leonard. He is a really good dual threat quarterback, and he's what they Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman want him to do. Rushing, let's just go right back there. Jeremiah Love, the true sophomore, has over 1,000 rushing yards, had that big, long 98-yard touchdown run against a top 5 unit against rushing when it comes to Indiana. Indiana was a top 5 unit defending against the the rushing attack. Um, Obviously, we now know that they are frauds, at least college football playoff frauds, but that's another topic for another day. Their second running back in Jadavion Price has just under 700 yards with 685 and 7 touchdowns as well. And you got to throw in Riley Leonard in there. So that's a 3-headed monster in the backfield when it comes to running the ball. And that'll be an exciting matchup against the Georgia defensive line. We'll talk about matchups and specific matchups a little later on in the video, so you want to stay here. On the receiving end, you have Beau Collins with 445 yards leading the team. Jaden Greathouse, second on the team with 350. This isn't a very good wide receiver room, which is why they're beefing it up for next year. And they got Will Pauling from Wisconsin, which is a really good pickup, by the way. We'll cover that more a little bit later on. Mitchell Evans, the tight end, is a really, really good tight end. But he only has 289 yards receiving. But he's really good at what he does for Notre Dame. Moving on to this top-ranked defense, this top 3 defense. This Notre Dame team is really, really good. And, they don't show up in the stats too much, although they have plenty of stats, as their linebacker, Jack Kaiser, leads the team with 69 tackles. Xavier Watts, the safety, is going to go really high in the draft, probably in the top 3 rounds at some point. Xavier Watts, really good safety. And he leads that secondary. That secondary is really good as well. They are missing their top member in the sack unit. Riley Mills is going to miss this game. We're going to talk about that a little later. He has 7.5 sacks, leads the team. At defensive line, though, Howard Cross III is second on the team with 4 sacks, and Donovan Hinish is third on the team in sacks with 3.5. So those guys can get to the passer and the quarterback and knock him down. They have shown that they can do that. So this defense is very, very good at what it does. Yes, they did take advantage of a softer schedule, but they did play teams like Army, USC, obviously Indiana in the college football playoff, Navy earlier on in the year, Louisville, and at Texas A&M. They went on the road to Texas A&M, and they held Texas A&M to 13 points. They held a really good Georgia Tech offense to 13 points, Navy to 14 points, Army to 14 points, Indiana obviously to 17 points, and frankly, 14 of those were in garbage time. So this is a really, really good defense that is going up against the Georgia offense that's kind of limping to the finish line. Lines for this game. First one, quarterback 2 for Georgia. How will Gunnar Stockton play? Because, in my opinion, he did not play very well in the SEC championship game at all. His longest run, and he is known to be a dual threat quarterback, and his strength is running the ball, was 9 yards. So that should tell you something about where he's at playing against a really good defenses. Texas is a really good defense. So I am worried for this matchup. because Notre Dame is really, really good at doing what it's supposed to do. And if they game plan right, they will be able to stop Gunnar Stockton from running it, make him a passer, which is not his strong suit. So that's what I have on that end. And how will Notre Dame get pressure? This is one of the big questions that I have. How will Notre Dame get pressure without Big 99, Riley Mills, who leads the team in sacks and is a true presence coming off of the edge? Real, just a massive human being, 6'5", 295 pounds. You saw it when he went down in that Indiana game, how concerning it was for other players. Like they were really upset that he was hurt, and they could tell it would be a serious one, and he's out for this game. So how will Notre Dame get pressure? That's one of the big questions that I have for Notre Dame. How will they get pressure if they do succeed in stopping Stockton from running and they make him into a passer? How will they get pressure without him? That's my big question for Notre Dame and their defensive line on that. And another one on Notre Dame: can they beat a top tier opponent? Indiana, you can't really classify them as a top tier opponent, like how you can't classify SMU as a top tier opponent for Penn State. Will Notre Dame? They've taken advantage of a weaker schedule all year long. Can they beat a top tier opponent? Georgia is the number one program right now, not the number one team. They are the number one program in college football right now. They're coming off of two national championships, an undefeated season last year, only losing to Bama and losing out on the college football playoff. Um, they're the number one program right now in college football, one of the more dominant stretches in college football history for Kirby Smart and his staff. Can Notre Dame beat a top tier opponent? That's another question that I have for them. Just an overarching theme there for them. And can Georgia overcome some obstacles? This is not their. This is probably their worst roster in 4 years. I mean, you can argue it however which way you want it, but they're playing with a backup quarterback right now. They don't have a top tier rusher. They have two solid rushers, but they don't have a top tier rusher. They don't have Brock Bowers. They don't have a top wide receiver like they did when they had George Pickens. They don't have a defensive line that's gonna net. They don't have a defense that's gonna net like 20 draft picks. This is probably their worst roster in a while. Are they going to be able to overcome the obstacles that college football has put before them? That's a question that I have for Georgia, and these four storylines I think will play out in this game. Okay, now here's something fun that I do. My positional power ratings going into this game. It should be pretty simple how I constructed this. When you have the gold, that position leans toward Notre Dame. When you have the Georgia red, that leans toward Georgia. Coaching, I think Georgia has the obvious advantage here with Kirby Smart, who is the number one head coach in football right now, both schematically and as a program. He's led this team to multiple national championships, and he can very easily do it again, pretty much just through coaching, because like we said in the last one, they don't have their best roster. So coaching obviously leans Georgia. At quarterback, you gotta lean Notre Dame. If it's Carson Beck, you have an argument, um, but with Notre Dame and Riley Leonard, what he brings to the table is a lot more, is just a lot better than what Gunnar Stockton brings to the table. They're both dual threat quarterbacks. Gunnar Stockton, like we said, struggled running the ball against a good defense in the SEC championship game. His longest run was 9 yards, and when you have a guy at quarterback who's passed for over 2,200 yards, excuse me, and he's ran for over 250 yards as well, over 30 combined touchdowns. That guy is the type of guy that you want under center. At running back, you lean Notre Dame not just for one specific guy, although Jeremiah Love probably is, you would take him over Trevor Etienne, excuse me, but just as a room, this running back room is a lot better than Georgia's running back room, because you throw in the quarterback Riley Leonard in there, and it becomes even better. And then at wide receiver, tight end, I split. I like Mitchell Evans better at tight end for Notre Dame, but I like the Georgia wide receiver room a lot better. They have better stats. They're more talented, and they're a lot more physical than Notre Dame's wide receiver room. Although you got to look out for Jordan Faison out there for Notre Dame. He was kind of carrying in that Indiana game. And offensive line, I was really going back and forth on this. I went with Notre Dame, but it's very, very close. It's very, very close for me when it comes to offensive line. At defensive line, you got to go with Georgia. All those dogs up front for Georgia, like Nazir Stackhouse, Michael Williams, Warren Brinson, and Chaz Chambliss. Like, they're all really, really good at defensive line. And coming off the edge at linebacker, you got guys like Chaz Chambliss. He plays a hybrid defensive line linebacker. So I threw them both in there. Jalen Walker, CJ Allen, Samuel, Samuel Modon Jr., excuse me, at wide linebacker. These linebackers are really good at in the secondary. However, I lean toward Notre Dame here because they have more star power in that in that secondary. They have guys like I said, Xavier Watts at safety with 6 interceptions. Adon Schuler has 3 interceptions. So they take the ball away, and they're really, really good in the secondary. Special teams, I lean Georgia because of their kicker, Peyton Woodering. He is really good at kicker. He's probably one of the best college kickers. Has a 91% field goal accuracy. He is 5 of 5 from 40 to 49 yards. He's 3 of 5 from 50 plus. He's made all his kicks from the 20-yard line all the way through the 40-yard line. He's a very good college kicker. Okay, now we come to my prediction for this game. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, like the video if you've liked it so far, and do all that. Comment your score prediction down below. I think this will be a very tight game. Georgia could definitely win, but I think Notre Dame stuns a lot of people and beats Georgia in an ugly game. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be. It's not going to be Georgia. Excuse me. It's not going to be Oregon, Ohio State level excitement. In terms of passing the ball, big chunk plays, takeaways. Although we could see a lot of takeaways in this game, I think Notre Dame will control the line of scrimmage and they will win 24-20. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Put your score prediction in the pinned comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. See you later.